You'll see here that I have a blank untitled document. Now let me point out a couple of things before we move along. If mine says XHTML or perhaps an untitled document that yours doesn't have, that's okay. If you don't have a document open at all, perhaps you have the welcome screen open, that's okay as well. We might remember from the previous lesson that a blank web page really doesn't do us any good unless it belongs to a website. So let's create our first website in Dreamweaver. Let's go up to the Site menu, and you can either go to New Site or Manage Sites, either one of these places. Let's go to Manage Sites, and this dialog box is empty right now because we don't have any existing sites. As you build websites, this dialog box will become populated with all of the sites that you build. We need to create a new site, and now Dreamweaver is going to ask us to give our site a name and connect it to a local site folder. Well, let's give our site a name of My First Website. Now, the local site folder, you might also hear that called the local root sometimes. This is going to be a folder somewhere on your hard drive. Now, if you have downloaded the files that accompany these videos, we are in the Lesson 6 chapter and there are some folders in there. Perhaps you're starting from scratch. All you need for Dreamweaver to create a website is a folder somewhere on your hard drive. If you're on a Mac, it could be on your Mac hard drive. If you're on a PC, it could be on your C drive somewhere. We have one already, so I'm going to click this little Browse for Folder. And I need to look on my desktop. And in our project files, if we open Chapter 6, we are going to see a couple of folders here. The one that we're concerned with is right here. It's called My First Site. Now don't drill down into there. You can if you want to take a look, but you can do that later. Right now we're just establishing a connection to this folder for our website. This folder, by the way, has a couple of pages and a few images and a cascading style sheet in there. Let's click Choose. On Windows, you will click OK and then Select. And now when we click Save and Done, I'd like to draw your attention to the Files panel. There are two panels that we're going to have open all the time. One of those is the Files panel. The Files panel, if we take a look here, has a few things in here. It has an Images folder, a couple of HTML pages, a cascading style sheet. You might see the file extension CS6 there. And if you were to look on your hard drive in the folder that we just connected to, you're going to see these exact same starter files. HTML pages can end in .htm or .html if you are working with a static website. What I mean by static is that we don't have any database connectivity. We're not using any programming code, and if we did, if you ever connect to a website and your extension is anything except HTML or HTML, perhaps it's .php, you are dealing with a database-driven site and not a static website, okay? But for these videos, we're just getting our feet wet with Dreamweaver and learning a little bit about it, so a static website is exactly where we need to be. Let's go ahead and look at the preferences file before we move along any further. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to go up to Dreamweaver and Preferences. If you're on a PC, you're going to go to Edit and Preferences. Control-U or Command-U would be a shortcut for that. And let me just show you a couple of little things that I like to set up. Right here in the General category, I like to allow multiple consecutive spaces. By default, HTML does not allow double spaces or tabs, but you can force Dreamweaver to accept multiple spaces by turning on this checkbox right here, okay? Couple of other things. I'd like for you to go down to the Preview in Browser. Whenever you are working with Dreamweaver, it is important to test on as many browsers as possible. Now on this machine, it's a pretty new machine, and I only have Safari installed. On my other machines, I have Chrome and Firefox and several other browsers. Whenever you install a browser, you can get Dreamweaver to see that browser so you can test your pages in the browser by clicking this plus sign right here and then adding any installed browsers to this list. Now I just have Safari, but again, I do recommend that you have at least Firefox, and if you're on a PC, definitely Internet Explorer, and as many browsers as you can. Now one other thing that I'm going to call your attention to is right here, Preview using temporary file. I have turned this on because I am working with a static site, meaning I don't have any database connectivity and I won't have any problems. The reason I'm going to turn this on for these videos is because we are going to be testing our work and testing our pages in my case, Safari. And if this isn't on, I am going to be prompted to save my file every time before I preview it. And I just don't want to do that. Now, I'm going to suggest that you turn this on also just for this class. If you want to turn it off later, that's absolutely fine. And do turn it off if you're working in anything except HTML. But for now, those are the two things that I want to make sure that you have on. And you click OK, and I will too. And now we are ready to take a look at our Files panel. In our Files panel, we have a few things that were available in my first website. What you can do is double-click demo.html, and you are going to see a brand new blank web page. If you double-click index.html, you'll see a web page with a layout. Now, I'm just going to move this Files panel over a little bit. And let's talk about previewing in the browser. Again, I only have Safari. You could have others, but if you look right here at this little globe icon, when you click and hold this down, whichever browsers that you have installed in your preferences file are going to be available here. So I'm just going to preview this guy in Safari and take a look at what we have. This was actually a starter template that I'm going to show you how to access and is available inside of Dreamweaver. This guy has rollovers and some nice colors, and if we scroll down a little bit, we'll see a nice fixed width layout. Now let me go ahead and warn you, web development is changing, and in the future, if you haven't already, you're going to hear a lot about responsive web design and liquid layouts. And that is a technology that is also very relevant as we migrate toward mobile web design. But for this class, when it comes to learning the basics and getting a good understanding of how to create your layouts and also CSS, we're going to stick with one of the pre-built templates, and we'll make sure that you know the fundamentals and also your way around CSS. If you want to know more about CSS, and I'm sure you do, be sure to join us in the next video where I'll explain the different selector types and why you use them. For now though, you can close out of Safari, but leave open the Dreamweaver project that we've created because we're going to continue to use it in the next lesson.